Hello, everybody. This is Justin Case from American Newscape, rejoining our friend, the myth, the legend, Scott Dudley for American Consciousness. Hello, Scott. What's it like to be a myth and a legend?
I was just going to mention, I'm always in the green room. I don't ever actually get to come into the real studio to do this show, and there's no food here, let alone like certain colors of M&Ms.
No, but Scott, to be fair, there are cats there.
And indeed, I've got one on the cat tree sleeping and one on the chair next to me sleeping. So
Okay, that's how we.
hopefully we'll keep them asleep with the riveting content of the show.
Well, I was hoping that they would get excited because of the riveting content of the show, but maybe that's asking too much.
It's just I don't think it's cat stuff. You know what I mean? Humans are like, what do cats do? They walk around going, "I'm a human." Durr, durr.
And cats are the W.C. Fields of the animal kingdom. Get away from me, you bother me.
Yeah, yes, they are. Very
All
much
right.
so.
So, you wanted to talk about happiness, and I think
Happiness.
yeah, let's do it.
So all of us. Did you ever put the Pharrell show on the 24-hour play? The when he did the happy. Let's
Uh,
get happy. Da, 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 da. He had
no,
a 24-hour recording clip that just rolled and rolled and rolled for 24 hours.
I wasn't impressed with that song, but I did see that. I actually saw that clip, and I was extremely impressed with the production quality of it.
It was kind of cool. One of my old neighbors, Magic Johnson, was in the clip, so I was like, that was kind of cool.
Okay.
So, but that kind of got me thinking about happiness more than I guess I used to think about it. And then the other song, come on,
Oh, no, no, no,
get,
no, no.
don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy.
Bobby McFerrin.
Yep.
That was not a good song. But okay.
No, but kind of clever, talented artist, though. I mean, he could do things vocally that I had never thought was possible.
Well, all these people are, you know, they're extremely talented, even if I don't see eye to eye with the message. So, okay.
But I
So,
started looking in my cupboard, like happiness was like right next to my peanut butter, and I could just get some out and spread it on life.
yeah.
And I don't know I don't know if it's as simple as that, right?
Well, Scott, to be fair, you and I are happy people.
Right? Can't you see? I mean, our eternal old man scowls give us away.
No, but we have
My
compassion.
wife's like, "Why are you making that face?" I'm like, "I'm not making any face here. You look like you're really irritated." I'm like, "No, I'm feeling wonderful."
No, what you're saying is, it's hard not to react with the crap that comes out of his mouth, but I'm doing my best, sweetheart.
Right?
Yeah.
No. Well, so that's kind of what got me started on this. And here's the first thing I want to hit. Let's go like four bases. We'll hit a home run with this, and we'll be done.
Okay.
So, happiness is variable. So when I started asking people, what is happiness? I got some different answers. So Justin, what is happiness to you?
Well, actually, waking up in the morning and having a new chance, a new day ahead of me, the adventure of the new day. That kind of
That
covers
was
everything.
pretty consistent. No, that was pretty consistent amongst the dog park people who are generally happy in nature. There are some that are not. Um, but that was like, oh, I get to breathe again.
Well, yeah, but
And
to be fair, everybody in your group at the dog park are happy. No doubt in my mind.
you know, no, not quite. But there are people who are generally happy,
Yeah.
and those people had a kind of a much lower bar on happiness, if I might be so fair as to define it that way.
Okay.
They were like, happiness is just, like you said, chance to face another day. I'm still here. I'm still in the game. I'm still at the fair of life.
Oh, absolutely. And it's an e-ride.
I
And
ran out of I ran out of tickets, and I've got cotton candy in my teeth, but I'm still here.
life is an e-ride.
It feels like it sometimes.
Yeah, it absolutely.
And I'm still trying to get like the big bear, so that at the end of life's ride, I can like walk out to the parking lot carrying a big bear and acting like I actually was good at something.
Well, Scott, the way to win a big bear is to the first big bear concession game you come up to, win it, realizing you have to carry it around for 8 hours.
Yeah, yeah. And that's kind of the trade-off, isn't it?
Yes. Hey, sir, ma'am, would you like this bear? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I think, okay, so listeners, if you're taking notes at home, this was one of the first things that I think we saw was when I started, and I asked, like, I was like walking around like a cub reporter at the thing, say, what is happiness to you? We saw the people who are most happy have the lowest bar. Like, just being alive is happy. Now, some of them aren't completely honest, because I've seen, once you've seen somebody every day for a couple of years, you get a sense of, it's like, what am I supposed to say here versus, something just irritated me, and it got in the way of me taking another breath.
Well, or frustration. I had a very frustrating
Yeah,
day yesterday, but I still went to bed content, woke up happy.
nice. So that is what is happiness. And for me, it's interesting because I kind of felt like happiness was a zero sum game. So like if I was happy today, I'd have to like spend it tomorrow being unhappy. And it was always going to balance itself out. So I started a long time ago to say, you know what? If I'm happy, I'll notice it, I'll appreciate it, but I'm not going to desire it or seek it or chase it, because the more I chase happiness, the more I'm going to notice when I'm not happy. It's like people who work, people, everybody's working for the weekend. You know, that what that means is your happiness is stuck on Saturday and Sunday, maybe Friday afternoon, and the rest of the week, Monday, it's like it's guaranteed. It's impossible to be happy because you've already framed it that I really like weekends, and working all week is just the ends to the means, or at best, and torture at worst.
Well, and that's certainly a perspective. You and I never begrudged going to work, and I think we found as much joy and happiness in it as we could. So that didn't play a role for us.
No, I appreciated work, and I found like you say, found as much happiness as I could in it. But I also had that philosophy in mind, right? So I'll be damned if I'm going to surrender to Monday, you know. And so that was just me being stubborn. But that being said, I would like Sunday afternoon, my wife would say, "Hey, let's go out and do 18 things." I would be like, "Hey, I want all my energy for work because I know I'm going to need to lay some stuff on the line, and I want to be present, and I want to be able to do that, and I don't want to be burned up by work." So
Well,
so there was the kind of that balance there.
no, absolutely. And, how many people do we know that wake up angry? Even before their day has started, they're angry. Are they
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
are we predisposed
No,
to be
wasn't that our
happy?
show on
Or,
dreams?
well, I tried to put that out of my mind because it didn't make me happy.
When I have, I'm retired. I've been retired for over a year. When I have dreams that are like a series of administrative meetings where nothing gets done and it's just wah, 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 and I feel really powerless the whole time. When I wake up from those meetings, I have to kind of stop and clear the decks because the initial urge is to wake up going, oh,
Well, you're a vivid dreamer, and I am not, so I don't catch myself dreaming where I'm not aware of it.
I'm working on an essay. Back to the whole Scott's a writer thing. I'm working on an essay that suggests that people's moods are somehow influenced by the dreams they don't remember. And because you don't remember it, you can't really tag it, right? You can't really say, I'm just kind of grouchy today because I had grouchy dreams. But you don't remember. But a part of you remembers them, the unconscious or whatever. and maybe that's enough to kind of influence how we spend our days.
Well, or, particularly for you and I being of the longer tooth generation.
I thought you were going to say of sound mind and body, but I was going to dispute that.
No, well, yeah, good. Honesty is us. Um, Pain has a lot to do with it. I may wake up with pain and not, wish I didn't have it, but it doesn't have a bearing on my happiness. It's just I
But
woke
that's
up.
tricky. That requires a little work, right? I mean, you it's easy to let pain influence mood.
Well, and I think for what's easy for me, I have had extreme pain. Make you cry, fall down, cry, and that's how I judge it. So as long as that doesn't happen, I'm not even considering it pain because I have had pain.
Well, and as you say, us long in the tooth people, we carry a 4 on a 1 to 10 scale every day.
Right.
And sometimes it moves around. Sometimes it goes from the shoulder to the hip or whatever, but it's always there,
And we say, I'll be damned, it's in my hip today. How interesting.
right? It's like, what can I rub on this to make it go away?
But
So,
look,
absolutely. But the next question I asked people, because I once I got those different answers about happiness, it was interesting. And honestly, there were some who said, like, buying designer purses and or going out and hanging out with like important people. The kind of that the social interaction, but with kind of a status to it. And I was like, and that's fair. I mean, I'm glad somebody likes to do that.
well, no, absolutely. Whatever trips their trigger, but if I had to do that on a daily basis, I think I might start to become unhappy.
I don't, people say, well, you talk so much and you must be an extrovert. And no, I score introvert. I prefer quiet. That's why I like dogs and cats.
Well, I think, you and I are both, if there was such a thing as manic depressive with regard to vertedness, is that a word, vertedness? I just made a word. We both,
Verbosity.
verbosity, yeah, we vacillate back and forth. There's a lot of
Well,
times,
it's a tool.
yeah, this is in our
But I'll
comfort
say this,
zone.
but it doesn't feed me. If you're taking notes at home, introvert, extrovert. Extroverts would do the show and then they'd want to go party because they got so stoked up by talking and by interacting that they'd be like, yeah, this is great. I'm living for this, and so they want to go out like and hang out in a crowd of people.
So,
And I'm like, no, lunchtime and a nap.
yeah, well, so maybe extroverts are happier than introverts. Who knows? With that
Again,
theory,
that's the subjectivity of happy, and that's kind of why it's interesting. One of the best answers I got in what is happiness to me was a random person. They only come to the dog park about once every 2 or 3. At least I run into them once every 2 to 3 weeks. They come in, they take their dog, they walk one lap around the dog park, and then they leave. But today I was walking with them, and I said, "So what is happiness, Brenda?" And Brenda said, "To me, happiness is peace. When I am at peace, I am more than content. I am happy." And I was like, you know what? That's again, that's right back to kind of living and breathing. It's that kind of baseline stuff,
well, maybe, but maybe, I wish that on everybody. I wish that on the world. Thank you, Brenda.
right?
Yep. Well,
Right. That
yeah.
was a good one.
Was she a Miss America candidate? I mean, that sounds like a Miss America candidate answer.
No, well, but she kept spinning it. It's like, so what gives you peace? That's me. It's like
Yeah,
I won't let you go. Like, so
I'm not going to
okay,
settle
peace,
for that.
peace is cool. Do you buy it at Amazon? I said actually what I asked her. I said, can you buy that on Amazon? She said, no, 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 no. It's my relationship with prayer. It's my relationship with honoring the service to humanity. And I was like, okay, that's and she was just giving off waves of peace, by the way. And I was just sitting there going, okay, I feel better already just
Yeah,
hanging out with you.
exactly. She's a rock star. She's a peace star.
Yeah, very, very profound. In even in the simplicity, there was depth.
Absolutely.
All right, you ready? I got a question.
Okay.
How much do you value happiness?
I don't know
How
that
important is it?
I don't know that I value it. It just, to me, it just happens. It's upon me. I mean, it's not sought. It's just here. So I think I celebrate it. So how do I
How many how many how many days of crying pain and annoying job requests and cleaning up comment threads would it take to burn you up and burn you out? And then would you be missing it?
I don't believe it could happen, Scott. I did a viral video that it was getting at least 500 perspectives from the other side that were certainly paid for or by bots. And I laughed my way through them. I answered them all, and a lot of them weren't happy with my answers, but it made me happy.
Yeah, that's you just described my life on social media.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like you can't offend me on social media because social media is not a real thing.
It's like you're going to need your a response, and then I'm going to stop and give you a thoughtful, developed reply, and then you're going to knee jerk to my thoughtful, developed reply, and yeah, it just goes round and round.
Well, it's like you and I, 100 years from now, we'll be gone. But what we do today may still be out there.
Our the threads on our YouTube will
Yeah,
remain
or
for
Facebook or
sure.
whatever. And I'm not
Yeah,
particular,
no, that's very true.
but you and I can do a show and I can be proud of it. That can make me happy.
And
But
you know what, I set up a deal with my kids. I gave my kids my passwords to my social media accounts, and I said, hey, so do me a favor, when I die, just keep posting like I'm alive.
well, you may be omnipresent, but how do you judge that? I mean, how who would you know if you're omnipresent? Probably not.
No, no, no. But I think they could pull off AI Scott. I don't think, once you've been raised by me, I think you can pretty much plug and play the answers.
Well, I think I could too, Scott, but I would not want to take the joy from your children in doing that.
Right. So the answer most commonly in the dog park about value was high, was really high. Hey, happiness is really important to me. It is one of the foundational things that I want in my life. And so then we started talking about, well, so what if you lose it, and how do you get it back, and how do you come to terms with that? Because to me, that was part of my, I don't know, renunciation of happiness as a desire or drive, was to say that, you know what, if I'm happy, that's cool.
Yeah.
But if I'm not happy, that's all. It's just it's okay. It's just life. It's not something to kind of worry my little head about.
Well, and I would encourage those that catch themselves there to take a deep breath and reassess.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that's kind of the punchline to the joke, right? It's like, if you're not happy, what's going on? And how are you reacting to what's going on, which is even more important, because remember, there's no, like, you can't go to the peanut butter jar and pull out some happiness and spread it on bread. It's an imaginary concept. So there's nothing stopping you from being happy other than kind of flipping the switch and saying, okay, I got it.
Well,
I'm good.
when we
My,
were
my world's going to crap, but I'm happy anyway, in
you,
spite of it all.
when we were kids, Captain Kangaroo, we knew he was a little odd. Mr. Rogers was trying to convince us that we were happy, and that was probably a better place to be. And I think it's, when we were kids in Y Indian Guides, no offense to Native Americans, but there was such a thing as Y Indian Guides, we sang, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Clap, clap.
Yeah, we were in circles and we did that.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Although, I appreciated the natural guides, regardless of their ethnicity and origin, who weren't teaching me camp songs. They were teaching me how to walk through a forest of dried leaves silently. Those were my people. That's when I would, like, okay, I'm dialing in and paying attention. I could do the clap clap without thinking too much, but those people, I still scare people because I can walk like without making any sounds, and I'm a big person, not Kurt big, but I'm big.
Well, yeah, but rattlesnakes, that's not to your advantage to be in rattlesnake country and not making any sound. Or in bear
Rattlesnake,
country, or in
right?
mountain lion country. You just don't want to surprise them.
No, that is true. And actually, when I do walk in those places, I deliberately make more noise.
And kick
I absolutely
and kick rocks, and yeah, it's
see
just
me, hear me,
yeah.
smell me, and avoid me.
Please, yeah, just let me be. Let me be happy and not eaten.
But I tossed out the value thing. That was part of the trick to me was if I don't value this, if it's not super important to me, then I don't get super distressed when it's not around.
Okay.
So I don't get the Monday blues. I don't get the what am I doing here with this pile of bills and only this much money, you know. All of those things that can kind of push me towards, my wife just asked me to do some impossible chore right when I was in the middle of doing something enjoyable, and she didn't give me like a timeline to go ahead and pick my time to do it. It was like, drop everything and do this right now. you know, and those are kind of things that if given the opportunity, they could be happiness robbers. And happiness robbing is one thing. Caring about it is a whole nother thing.
Well, yeah, but you love your wife and you were happy to do the chore, so it may have been bad timing, but
We'll keep that line of reasoning until proven false, but that's actually been one of my live and learn lessons over 30 years of relationship is that I should just stop and do it now. Because if
yeah.
I start getting into a discussion about like, well, can I schedule this for an hour from now? It's a lose lose. She starts feeling like I'm not really attending to the need that she identified, and I start feeling like she can't hear why scheduling it in an hour wouldn't change the outcome of the universe. And so it's just everybody gets goofy, and so instead I'm like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
just take a deep breath, drop everything, do this thing, get it done, and do it well, and not do it like a grouch. And that's going to be the best way through this. But even though it robbed my happiness momentarily, that's okay. That's the trick. It's like, okay, I'm driving somewhere, and I got a clear stretch, and all of a sudden the light turns red. I got a choice, right? I can like hate that red light for a minute. Where I was going, I was doing fine. I was doing. Why? There's not even any traffic coming. Why did you turn red? Or or I could just chill and think, okay, whatever, take my foot off the gas. And
Well,
that's the trick because it stole my happiness, but I don't care.
no, it didn't steal your. An inanimate object can't steal your happiness.
Oh, but
It
now,
can't.
now you're making me mad, Justin. So you see how that works?
See how you went unhappy?
It's right. It's that easy to externalize this stuff. And you're right. Staying internalized is kind of the key to success.
Well, yeah, it's just that's that old chicken soup for the soul stuff. Don't
Right.
don't sweat the.
Well, I mean, jump into a social media feed, on anything. And if you've externalized your happiness, you're in for a wild ride.
Well, you got to pick your audiences. You may be hanging out with unhappy people, Scott.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, social media seems to really attract unhappy people, to be honest. Because almost everybody who puts the time and effort into putting something on social media, it's kind of like they had an axe to grind. This is actually one of the tricks to happiness, is that as an emotion, it's not a very powerful driving emotion. Whereas fear and anger, like, ooh, I'm going to put you in fourth gear and floor it.
Well, and you and I have the gift of we.
Happiness, like I'm just going to sit there and listen to the birds and watch the clouds and smile.
Yeah, exactly. And you and I are gifted with the ability to consider the source. If a tainted source is making you unhappy, just consider it. Who cares?
Well, and anybody I disagree with, frankly, is tainted. That's the simplest math on that.
I must be the
And anybody I agree with, by converse, anybody I agree with is completely, absolutely died. It's like the knowledge stone or something. It's perfect.
Well, I must be
No,
tainted.
I've worked my way through that. Okay.
Yeah, you have, or you couldn't put up with me.
Right. Right.
Right, right.
So yeah, but that's actually something we preach. I mean, we actually do preach on this show that you got to plug your critical thinking in and apply it to both sides and apply it to anything that would make you, kind of grouchy or make you kind of like celebratory doing the happy dance. Like, see, I told you they were right. Anything that pushes you in either way is subject to scrutiny.
Yeah, anything that makes you reactive, it's not
Yes.
good. It's not good.
Yeah. Well, and it's a red flag. It's at that point the information's already like, okay, I'm being played. It's like the car salesman who says, "Well, I've got this great deal. Well, let me talk to my manager." It's like, okay, we're about to get taken for a ride.
Well, yeah, and a lot of rage has common sense to it. I've had a lot of people angry with my driving until I reach out the passenger window and wave to them. Wave. It just gives them a sense of perspective in size.
Do some people derive happiness from anger?
Yeah, I do believe some people. I do believe that there's people that get up in the morning and they're angry, and they go to bed at night and they're angry, and their life would be is so designed and dependent upon anger that they'd be lost without it.
So they have really sharp axes because I'm grinding them all the time.
No, I don't think so. I don't believe they're necessarily grinding an axe, or just they want to be unhappy. I've known compulsive liars that they'll lie about the day of the week just because there's no capacity to tell the truth in them.
No, that's true. But it also sets up an interesting dynamic because some people get their happiness from making other people happy.
Yeah, there are people like that.
And
There are,
and and that's kind of a Sisyphean task. One step up, two steps back. You get a big rock on your back. You're climbing a mountain. But if you plug that into somebody who actually derives their happiness from being angry, you're in for a tough ride because you're trying to take away their happiness.
well, I had a friend that I met when I came to the valley who was just such a good person. I couldn't believe it. It was almost you almost thought that maybe they were a false prophet, but after years of knowing that person, they were that good a person. So then it made me happy to know them.
Yeah, it's nice to see someone that at the end of the day you're like, well, this is completely like Brenda today at the dog park.
Yeah,
This is a
absolutely.
genuine person.
Well, just the Brenda story made me happy. There
Yeah,
was
yeah,
hope
yeah.
hope for the dog park.
That's actually something I would say, just from kind of casual observation, that dog park people in general tend to be more authentic about whatever they're saying or doing. There's less of an agenda, and I think that's because they're used to relating to dogs a lot. And dogs never have been. Dogs are typically pretty clear, unless it's a chow chow. Are typically pretty clear about what's going on in their lives relative to you. If it's ignore, it's ignore. If it's I want to kiss, it's I want to kiss. If it's like, hey, stay away from me, I don't like you. It's that. And I think that the dog park people bring that bias with them because they relate to dogs enough that they would value them enough to take them to the dog park.
Well, and
And so
they
I think
derive,
I think that's part of who they are.
and all of them derive happiness from that, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Nobody who comes to the dog park because of the responsibilities and the time and the effort and the money and all that stuff, nobody is doing it out of a sense of duty. Every one of them is doing it. Now, interestingly, just like the dogs, there's a breakdown. So some people come to relate to their dog and they just want to go play in the corner with their dog. Some people come because they like the human companionship. It's a fun place to meet people and talk and bounce gather show material, whatever you're doing,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And then some people come like, and this is me, a guilty confession. I like hanging out with other dogs, and my dog had to kind of make that concession at some point and say, "Oh, he's going to go pet other dogs. Doesn't mean I don't. He doesn't love me, but if a dog is friendly and a dog wants to be acknowledged, and it's like I almost feel, not to get too spiritual, I almost feel like anytime a dog like wants a pet and a kiss, it's like something from a bigger, higher power coming up and saying, "Hey, here's your opportunity to see me and know me." And so, why would I ever turn that down?
Well, absolutely. And the dog has assessed you as a happy place, a good person. And we all need
Oh,
that
and you got to
reinforcement.
be careful at the dog park, because if one dog decides you're not cool, they'll talk about you forever. They'll be like, "Dogs, no,
Oh, yeah.
dogs are never wrong." I'm like, yes, they are.
Well, no, they're pretty good at determining character in human beings.
Pretty good, but not infallible.
No, but better than we are as human beings.
Yeah, I mean, but they're for every 25 dogs, most dogs at the dog park like me, even though I'm a guy, and there's a guy bias with dogs. Um, they like me, but there are a couple dogs that are like, "You're a guy, you're big, I don't trust you, and I'm going to bark." And it's not because their judgment's good or bad. It's got a lot to do with how they were perceiving the world. My,
Well,
my dog, my dog has a rule. If you come into the park and you don't have a dog with you, you are immediately suspect.
well, one of my favorite dogs hated hot air balloons because they hurt his ears, and he did not like landscaping people only if they were Hispanic. And I finally figured out what that was about because he could tell it was the masa pouring out of their pores. He could smell it.
Oh,
And
interesting.
one day, a hot air balloon did a forced landing about 100 yards behind my house, and my dog leaped the fence. And this was a
I'm gonna go kill
110,
the balloon.
110-pound German Shepherd. And I wasn't going to run because I couldn't run as fast as the dog. But when they saw that dog coming with malice in his eyes, they all jumped out of the basket.
Yeah, it was clear.
And my dog jumped in the basket. And without the ballast, the balloon started to rise again. So I helped them get their balloon back down. And my dog was so happy, so proud of himself. And the guy said,
Got a balloon ride, huh?
no, he said, is that your dog? I go, oh, yeah, that's my dog. He doesn't like hot air balloons. They hurt his ears. Um, could you get him out of my basket?
No,
Oh, yeah, I could. So it's amazing what they react to. And they are reactive.
absolutely.
Everything's reactive, isn't it?
So let's. One of the things I asked people was quick, and again, people who are checking this out today, this is a good way to kind of get yourself, because you have to kind of stop and say, okay, well, just being alive. Well, okay, that doesn't just cover it. There are other things that make you happy. So what are like the top five? What gives you happiness? And I'll give you a hint. Um, Love is awareness. So whatever you focus your attention on is what you love, because that's the most important thing you have, right? Other than maybe time, if you kind of sort that out. But your attention is where you're focusing whatever you care about in any given moment. And so it's the easiest thing to figure out about what you love is figure out where you put your attention. So what gives you happiness, Justin? Quick list, top five, top of your head.
Top five quick. Accomplishment, work, relationships, friends, and what else? Some family. Notice the qualification there, but that would be, I believe that would be it.
Nice, nice. That'll do it. And so for me, it's going to be uh, nature, probably almost first. Just being outside, and it could be with dogs, cats. It could be but mostly just kind of sitting outside and observing. Oh, there's birds, there's butterflies, there's this, there's that. The wind's doing this, the clouds are doing that. The trees are healthy or happy, or they need water or something. I like going out and just shutting myself off and letting nature just kind of soak into me. I bet you that's almost number one. I mean, now that I've retired, I spend and it's getting warm. I spend about 5 to 6 hours outdoors every day.
Wow.
I just got the number one compliment a guy like me can get. Somebody said this morning, "You've got nice tan legs."
Wow. Well, and don't think
I
we're
know,
not
right? It's like
don't think we're not all proud of you.
after 30 years of office work, it's like finally it took me a year and a half to get there.
And you should go to see
But
your dermatologist.
yeah. But so that's good. Obviously the pets in the house, my wife, those are all good. Kids probably somewhere on that list. Music probably somewhere on that list. I like songs. Dreaming's probably on that list.
Oh,
So if I had a top five, and reading books is kind of sneaking under that list, but and learning, because it's learning stuff.
right. Right.
So that would be my five. But as you see, the lists are different, and ultimately, the reason we were asking people, okay, so give me your top five, is because at that point, then you can begin to look at them and say, is this an external source or an internal source? Some external sources we have less control over, and ultimately that'll circle back to, my happiness the rug get pulled out from under it, and then at that point, do I have to do some fixing there? Do I have to kind of do some adjusting? So internal, external.
Well, it's just like listening to your favorite radio station, where you're enjoying it and it's putting you in the proper frame of mind, and then they decide that they're going to play a stinker, and it just all vanishes, and you have to start over.
Or they're playing your favorite song, and they cut off the last stanza and chorus because they had to go to commercial, because they just got a tournament players update from golf. Wait a minute, that was the best part of the song. Where did it go?
Yeah, and I think our lists are forever evolving. Monday's list may look different than Tuesday's list, and I think that's fine.
So that's probably an interesting subcomponent, right? Is the flexibility to roll with the punches, as it were, and be open to embracing things that give you that feeling.
Well,
And then, secondarily, neither one of us mentioned good health, and yet indeed good health may be part of our core structure there.
well, there again, it's subjective. It's subjective for all of us. So, for me, breathing in the morning is good health. So, if I wake up, I'm not going to be worrying about health.
Yeah, for me, the last couple of weeks was being able to stand up out of bed. It was like good health,
Absolutely.
with a minimum of leaning on things and owing.
Right. But the owing didn't hurt you, nor did the
No,
pain.
no, and honestly, I can be pretty pragmatic about stuff like that, because I'm like, the difference between something that, obviously gives you kind of that warm, fuzzy, happy feeling, and something that doesn't, merely teaches you that happiness is it really kind of shows you the value of your happiness, right? So it's like sadness, like losing someone, or actually, to be technical, having someone die that you love. It's like you're sad about that, but that just tells you how much you love them. So it's kind of like oh, this was really important to me, and I valued it a whole bunch, and that's why I'm sad. Otherwise, I would just swipe left.
Well, that's where whoever the genius was that conceived of the celebration of a life, that's a very therapeutic attitude.
We went to I was the back row at one of our neighbors' services, and the church was full. Lady had some popularity points. And so we kind of slid into the back row, me and my kid, and the reverend, I guess, was up in front and said, "How many of you are sad?" And we didn't realize, because we don't go to church enough, so we didn't know the kind of like the vibe. We didn't realize it was a rhetorical question, and we weren't supposed to raise our hands. And we were like, whoop. And both of us did it. It's like second grade, and you know the answer. We were like, boom, hands just shot up. And all of a sudden, we look around, and there's like 800 people in this fairly large space. Nobody's got their hands raised.
You did?
Wait a minute. Yeah, I thought she was a pretty cool lady. You know, I kind of miss her.
You know, one of the things that has struck me about people as I've gotten longer in the tooth is, do they leave you better off than when they found you? I mean, in essence, is it a blessing to know them? And we meet people like that from time to time. They always leave us better off.
Is that something you value? I mean, is that like in your kind of DNA now,
I think
that you're going to try and pay that forward, basically?
I think it is, Scott. I mean, certainly with my friends, you know, one thing about me is I don't have enough compassion for the world, but I do have a lot of respect for and compassion for my friends. You know, sometimes to a fault.
So are you trying to move the circle out gradually? And
No, Scott, I'm not. Because that's a lot of responsibility. I mean, when you give to people, it can be work, so to speak.
well, and there's probably a little separation between giving to people and a feeling compassion for them. I guess that's compassion is a gift, even if they don't know they're receiving it. You know, maybe there's some quantum energy there in the world. But I'm always telling myself, whenever, especially, I'm trying to figure out the correct wording here so I don't get mean. But I know it's hard.
It's making me happy just to think of you being mean, Scott. Go ahead.
Remember the AM song "Cruel to Be Kind"?
Yeah.
Cruel to be kind.
Yeah, I remember it.
It came on the radio, and one of my friends looked at me and said, "Oh, I know who that's about." So my thing is this: it's like the stupider the story, the more irritating the person is, the more I have to challenge myself to say, this person has a story. For this person to act like this, it has to make sense to them. People don't act in ways that don't make sense to them. So what is and that's the compassion angle. It's like if I can put my own biases aside and put my own kind of judgment and values aside and just kind of try to, for a minute, you know, I don't have to live in their world. Just for a minute, just kind of say, you know what, this person somehow came to the conclusion that this was the appropriate way to act. Wonder what led them to that. And just kind of try to kind of backfill. And if I can get just a bit of it, you know, if I could get just a general like, this must have been very important. You know, their parents must have drilled this into them at the dinner table or something. Then I can kind of get a moment of, oh, okay, well, that explains why they're such a jerk. And then I can move on.
Well, maybe. I remember when I walked away from football. It took a girl to say to me after the fact, "Why do you have to be that way?" And I said, "What do you mean?" You know, she said, "You know, why do you have to be such an asshole? Why are you so dangerous?" And I stopped to think. I'd been brought up on the football fields to be that way, to be dangerous. And the moment that light bulb went off in my head, I became a dramatically better person. And I was happy I left. But it took
That's a trick.
you know, she
Because
put
you've
it
been
to me.
trained to unleash the lion, basically.
Oh, absolutely. You know, to devastate and destroy. And, you know, I got compliments when they took another football player off in an ambulance. I was praised by my peers and my coaches.
Yes, reinforcing.
Yeah. So I didn't have an answer, so I changed.
Yeah, that not to like wokely demasculinized men, but that managing your rage is right up there with managing your sexual behavior in terms of responsible men.
Oh,
You could
absolutely.
still be you could still be a manly man, you could still be like super virile, whatever, but you should be responsible for your out of control anger. You can be mad, but you can't beat people's heads in every time you get mad. And you could be, sexually aware and driven, but you can't play people. You can't trick people. You can't coerce people into sexual relationships because that's not cool.
No,
And as
absolutely.
men, I think that's part of our stand and deliver.
I think you're right. And I at a point I was a young adult. I had to manage it because I could kill somebody simply. So even in an imminent fight, I couldn't get angry. Wouldn't allow myself.
I can remember that because that's kind of how I was like the person who never wanted to fight, but when I fought, everything went black. I mean, you could break my nose and cut my arm off, and I would be like, "'Tis only a flesh wound," and then I would try to kill you. And that's not a good way to be.
No, it's not. And from athletics, everything slows down, so you're in control, and you have to, like Caesar Milan says, calm, assertive. You have to stay calm at all times.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, we're long in the tooth right now, so part of that now is common sense, right?
Well, not necessarily. I think I would react just the same, but and people that can't write in cursive can't be that dangerous.
One of the guys at the MMA at the dog park is an MMA, not he's a hobbyist. He's not professional. Um, but he's 32 and MMA worthy. He goes and spars with professionals. And and one day we're kind of like sizing up possibilities, and he was like, "I could probably take you." And the part of me that was me, the guy part of me was like, and yeah, I'm going to fight to the death. And then the common sense, long in the tooth part of me said, you know what? I think you're probably right.
Well, I sparred professionally under an assumed name when I was in high school because I got paid to do it, and I
It
got the
wasn't Justin, all right.
no, it
It was
wasn't.
different name.
It was a different name, and I got an opportunity to spar with a middleweight, contending middleweight for a
Yeah, yeah,
$100 a round. That was like 3 kegs of beer per round.
right.
And
And middleweights, some of them were pretty tough.
well,
In the age of the tough middleweights, you had Sugar Ray, you had Tommy Hearns, you had Marvin Hagler, you had some pretty serious Roberto Duran. You had some pretty serious boxers, but not all of them. That weight just limits what you can do. It's physics.
well, exactly. And I would have never gotten in the ring with a contending heavyweight because they are so powerful and so fast that you would just be a punching bag. But when I showed up, they said they give you instructions. You can box left-handed. Yes, I can. We want you to box left-handed, and he needs to work on body blows, but you can't hit him.
Okay,
His name was Edgar Bad News Wallace, very famous fighter.
nice.
And my gosh, he had small hammers working on your body only so long. And
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That
you
would be true too.
and if you block with your arms, he's just going to turn them into marshmallows. And so finally, I just shoved him off of me, to survive. And they
It was
fired
like
me.
full contact Pilates.
Yeah, and they fired me because I pushed him off. But yeah, it's just a matter of keeping your cool. If I had hit Edgar would have been hit because he didn't have that
We
talent.
should add this to your bio, by the way.
Punching
Justin
bag,
Case.
professional
Well,
punching bag.
no, you were a boxing person. I was a male stripper. I jumped out of cakes.
There you go.
It was like one of my college gigs to make a little bit more money.
Oh no, I bet you were good, and that must have made you happy.
I always felt inadequate. I mean, seriously, I always felt like I wasn't the right guy for the job. But when people started recruiting me and said, "No, you could do this," I'm like, "Well, I could do it for $50. That's for sure."
Well, plus you had to be in a room with people that were willing to pay you to jump out of a cake. That would be frightening, wouldn't
Well,
it?
yeah, and it was like I didn't let it go to my head. Let's just say that.
That's good. Well, but you got to experience it. It's priceless.
I did. I did. And you know what's funny? It was like one of those pre-alcoholic moments because it took a little bit of liquid courage to go up there and shake your group thing, especially with like limited clothing. And I just because I'm a shy again back to being an introvert. It's like that's not who I am. But $50 is $50.
No,
So
absolutely.
I was back in those days. That was like a week's of wages.
Yeah, it really was. What
So
else?
happiness.
You got something else magic out of the dog park. Give me some magic from the dog park.
The magic is happiness if it's a commodity because that was really where it circled back to was there are a lot of things out there masquerading as happiness, right? uh, Looking younger, being prettier, having straighter teeth, having a really pretty car, living in a beautiful perfect house. All of these things are kind of eating all the cool foods, eating organic vegetables. All of these are kind of floated out there as happiness deliverers. And we have to kind of, I think, beware of how that may influence our happiness. Because if somehow that's what we're driven to achieve, because we think there's happiness there, it's probably a false idol, if you will. It's probably not happiness. And when you get it, then you're like, oh, okay, I think I'm happy, but oh, wait, I'm not happy. And then you just kind of keep raising the bar, right? It's not organic vegetables, it's vegan cooking. It's not that SUV, it's a Hummer. So ultimately, that's kind of the treadmill of consumerism, and that's the kind of thing that I think we all want to be aware of, because if you're trying to build happiness with externally controlled sources, it's a long, hard road. And that was what the dog park. After we talked about, I love dogs, I love being with people, I love hanging out here, and these things I used to love and don't anymore, or I still kind of do, but I realize that they're not the best ways for me to go. That was the interesting point of the discussion. Was that if you create happiness that you self control and your bar is really low, then generally speaking, you can be happy all the time. But if happiness for you is like this mad dopamine rush of success, of scoring that winning touchdown, and or in baseball, hitting a home run. Oh, well, how many home runs do you hit all year? Versus how many at bats do you get? Versus how many outs do you make? If the only time you're happy is when you hit a home run, you're not happy very often. And ultimately, your ability to home run is somewhat controlled by your ability. But man, if you come up against a really good pitcher, you're toast. And if they deliberately walk you, you ain't getting a home run.
Well,
And that I think was where we ended up having fun as a dog park, was saying, wow, there's a bunch of false flyers out there. And,
well,
and and for us to kind of stop and be aware of that requires us to really think about it.
well.
Career achievement came up, because you thought you wanted to climb to the top of Mount whatever you do. And for us longer in the tooth people, we were like, well, there's some value in doing your best. And sometimes that's recognized and you're promoted. And sometimes you rise to the level of your incompetence. But is it really worth, taking your work home and ignoring your family? Is it
Well,
really worth coming in on weekends? Is it
because
really worth something where even your effort doesn't really make the world any different?
most of those people that have a sail to the top are some of the unhappiest people we know because,
Because they're not satisfied.
well, yeah, that's the Peggy Lee song. Is that all there is? And, everything, most things, people can't hang their hats on things that are fleeting. My football glory, my baseball glory, it's all long gone. It's been gone for a long time. I don't miss it. At least I had the blessing to
But
have it.
Bruce Springsteen still gets a standing ovation when he does Glory Days, right?
Well, absolutely. And he's still, but is that what makes him happy? I don't know.
Probably not.
Well, it might.
Although I think just the joy of playing.
It might, and it could be just horrific drudgery to him. I think when we see the ex stars of their day still performing well past the need for money into their 70s and 80s, it makes them happy.
It must, right? I mean,
Right.
it's not because they need a buck. It's not they don't need a couple bucks.
Right. They need that interaction. They have a passion for it. And I can appreciate that, even if they don't sing like they used to, even if they forget a word or two.
So, Bruce, if you're listening today, go ahead and drop in the comments whether or not music is still the driving thing in your life and brings you great joy.
Yeah. Tell us what makes you happy. Okay.
Absolutely. To wrap it up, that was it basically. Keep a low bar. Be aware be aware of the things that may be really important to your happiness that you're not really giving full credit to. The kind of hidden things.
Well,
And because some of those may be external. And if they are, you may have limited control and they could get sucked away.
well, absolutely. And if you're happy, don't believe you have a low bar. Let's celebrate the fact that you're happy. And we wish
Well,
that
yeah, yeah,
on
yeah.
you forever.
I'm saying low bar, not in some sort of depreciating way. I'm saying it like that's the gold standard.
Well, taking 4 steps without staggering sometimes, that's an accomplishment.
Right?
Right.
No, I used to have a sign on my desk at work that said, if you're not happy, lower your expectations.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign. All right.
And ultimately, there's some truth to that. So hopefully, people hear this today and they're like, oh, okay. Take something like health. Well, I value my health and I'm happy as long as I'm healthy. Well, guess what? Guess what's going to get sucked away someday,
That's what I always tell people. I haven't been through the experience. Don't go to Mayo
right?
Mayo Clinic if you don't want to have a whole lot of things wrong with you, because they'll find it.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I kind of whistle past the graveyard there.
Yeah. Okay. All right, everybody. Hey, Scott, great topic. Thanks for joining us. Remember, additional information and links provided in this video. Read more. Today's the day to subscribe to this channel. Please learn more about Scott when time permits.